There's a version of you right now that's quietly destroying everything you could become. It doesn't show up with a loud bang, it whispers. It whispers when you hit snooze instead of rising early. It whispers when you promise yourself tomorrow will be different, knowing deep down it won't. This version of you hides in hesitation. It hides behind excuses and comfortable distractions. It tells you it's okay to delay. It's okay to skip the hard stuff. It's okay to quit. That version of you, the quitter, the comfort chaser, the excuse maker, that version must die. Not in theory, not in thought, but in the small, gritty, everyday moments where your decisions either feed it or starve it. Nothing changes until that version is gone. Until you look it in the face and say, you're done here. Because every time you listen to it, you reinforce it. Every time you justify quitting, every time you convince yourself that later is still good enough, you're training yourself to fail. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. That's what makes it dangerous. It steals your potential in broad daylight and calls it self-care. It strips your ambition and calls it patience. But you're not here to live small. You're not here to float through life stuck in cycles. You're here to rise, to fight, to rebuild. And the only way forward is to start by killing the version of yourself that keeps giving up. You've let that weak version stay alive long enough. It convinced you that quitting was strategic, that if things got too hard, it was smarter to pause. It told you that if your mood wasn't right, it was better to stop, that it's okay to fall behind because everyone does. But the truth is, you've been lying to yourself. That version has delayed your goals, weakened your confidence, and numbed your vision. Every time you said, I'll do it tomorrow, that version celebrated. Every time you stayed in bed instead of showing up, that version won. And now your life reflects those choices. Fragmented goals, abandoned plans, a deep sense that you were meant for more but haven't lived up to it. That's not because of who you are. It's because of who you've allowed to run the show. If you want to take control, you have to act. Not think about acting. Not prepare to act. You have to do. You have to push when it hurts. You have to move when you're tired. You have to show up when you feel like disappearing. That's how you kill the weak version, not with talk, but with movement. Not with more hype, but with discipline. You erase it by doing the exact opposite of what it tells you. When it says you're too tired, you go harder. When it says today isn't the day, you make it the day. When it says you've already failed too much, you take one more step anyway. Because if you don't, that version stays alive. And every day it survives, it steals another piece of your life. Understand this, quitting is a trained habit. You weren't born with it. You built it. Slowly. Repeatedly. And just like it grew through repetition, you can kill it the same way. Repetition. Replacing delay with action. Replacing fear with forward motion. Replacing comfort with grit. Every time you do what you said you would, you chip away at that weak version. Every time you follow through on your word, you make it harder for that quitter to come back. You create a new identity, one that doesn't flinch under pressure. One that pushes even when it hurts. One that finishes what it starts. That identity isn't built in one dramatic shift. It's built in small moments. The ones where nobody's watching. The moments when you'd rather scroll than work. When you'd rather lie to yourself than face the truth. It's in those decisions that the real transformation happens. Because the strong version of you is already there. It's buried underneath patterns you've allowed for too long. And the only way to bring it to life is to start starving the other one. Think about how many times you've started and stopped. Think about the promises you've made to yourself and then broken. Think about how often you've felt that spark, made a plan, told yourself this time will be different, and then let it fade. You weren't too weak. You were just listening to the wrong voice. The quitter. The one that says you're not built for this. The one that loves the idea of progress more than the pain of actual progress. The one that waits for motivation to move instead of moving to find motivation. That voice? You've heard it enough. You've obeyed it long enough. It's time to disobey. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's not about overnight change. It's about refusing to keep quitting. Because quitting is more than just stopping, it's surrendering. It's saying, I can't handle this. But you can. You've just never given yourself the proof. And that proof only comes through action. Not emotion. Not potential. Not intention. Just action. You don't build strength by waiting for the right mood. You build it by acting when the mood is wrong. You build it when your body says stop, but your mind says keep going. That's how confidence is formed. That's how belief is built. That's how momentum starts. by acting like the person you want to become long before you feel like them. Every single day you face two choices: feed the version of you that quits or feed the version that fights. There's no neutral ground. Every decision you make, every skipped rep, every delayed task, every ignored goal is a vote. A vote for who stays and who leaves. Are you voting for the quitter? Or are you building the fighter? You don't need hype. You don't need another motivational talk. You need to make a decision. You need to stop negotiating with laziness, stop making peace with delay, stop pretending that comfort is harmless. You've done that enough. And all it's brought you is frustration. Now it's time for execution. Time to get to work, not because it feels good, but because you said you would. Because that's who you are now. Someone who follows through. Someone who finishes. Someone who decides their life will no longer be a reflection of fear and delay, but of power and persistence. You want to feel powerful? Start doing hard things. Want to feel confident? Stop quitting. Want to change your life? Start by changing your response to pressure. The quitter backs down. The fighter steps forward. And that difference, played out in 100 daily choices, determines everything. The weak version of you doesn't die in one day. It dies in the quiet moments of persistence. It dies when you keep going after failure. It dies when you do the work in silence. It dies when you build a rhythm so strong that quitting feels foreign. That's what you're here to do. That's the path you must walk. No more giving in. No more delay. No more negotiations. Kill the version of you that keeps quitting. And build, one day at a time, the version that never will. There comes a point in your life when you can no longer afford to live like a child dressed in adult responsibilities. A point where ignoring your problems becomes more painful than facing them. Where pretending things are fine collapses under the weight of what you've been avoiding. And if you're reading this, you're probably at that point. Good. Because pretending hasn't helped. Delaying hasn't made things easier. Wishing hasn't made them disappear. And hiding has only made the problem stronger and your confidence weaker. It's time to stand up. Not because you're fearless, not because you're ready, but because nobody else is coming. This is your life. And the problems you refuse to handle are the anchors weighing you down. Adulthood is not a number. It's a mindset. It's a standard. It's a decision to take responsibility for everything that's broken in your life. Without excuses, without drama, without blame. Children wait for someone to fix things. Adults fix it themselves. Children throw tantrums when things feel unfair. Adults get strategic. Children run from discomfort. Adults lean into it, knowing that real progress lives there. This isn't about growing older. It's about growing up. How much of your stress right now is coming from things you're not dealing with? Think about it. The unopened bills, the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, the habits you swore you'd fix but still repeat, the responsibilities you've postponed again and again, hoping they'll solve themselves. But problems don't vanish when you ignore them, they multiply. They stack up like weight on your shoulders, gradually breaking your posture, breaking your peace, and eventually breaking your belief that you can handle your own life. That's what happens when you keep running. You want to stop feeling overwhelmed? Then stop hiding. Stop avoiding. Stop giving your power away to circumstances, people, and patterns that you've outgrown. It doesn't matter how unfair it is. It doesn't matter who caused the problem. If it's in your life, it's your responsibility now. That's not punishment, it's power. The moment you take ownership, the moment you say, "This is on me," your energy shifts. You go from victim to warrior, from fragile to focused, from excuse maker to action taker. And that shift changes everything. Responsibility isn't about blame, it's about freedom. Because as long as you believe someone else is responsible for your life, you will always be waiting. Waiting for change. Waiting for fairness. Waiting for a solution that never comes. But when you take responsibility, you stop waiting. You start building. Brick by brick. Step by step. One solution at a time. You go from stuck to strategic. And that is the mindset that separates people who change from people who complain. You don't have to fix everything in one day. That's not what being an adult means. It means you stop pretending the problems don't exist. It means you pick one thing, the messiest, the most urgent, the most neglected, and you face it. With clear eyes and no filters. It means you stop seeking comfort before progress. It means you stop escaping every time things feel heavy. Because the heaviness doesn't kill you, the avoidance does. The more you avoid responsibility, the more your self-respect erodes. You don't trust yourself. You don't believe your own words. You start needing external validation just to feel okay. And your standards drop, silently but consistently, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. Not because life was hard, but because you avoided handling what needed to be handled. That's the cost of running. Handling your problems doesn't mean everything gets better instantly. It means you get stronger. It means you develop grit. It means you learn how to stay grounded when life gets chaotic. And life will get chaotic. That's not a possibility, it's a promise. Pressure is coming. Setbacks are coming. Pain is coming. But if you build the muscle now, the muscle of accountability, of resilience, of follow-through, you'll face those moments like a leader, not a victim. You don't get to choose whether life hits you. You only get to choose how you respond. Will you keep crumbling under the weight of things you could have prevented? Or will you start showing up for yourself like someone who actually cares about their future? That's the question. And your answer is not in your words, it's in your actions. In what you do when you don't feel like doing. In how you move when nobody's watching. In how you respond when your back is against the wall and no one is clapping. Let's be real. Life doesn't owe you comfort. It doesn't owe you clarity. It doesn't care how hard your past was. The world is not going to pause while you figure it out. So stop expecting that. Stop treating responsibility like it's optional. You're not doing anyone a favor by stepping up. You're doing what needs to be done. That's the baseline. That's the entry point to a better life. And if you're not willing to meet it, then stop expecting more from your future. You don't become disciplined by chance. You become disciplined by doing what you don't feel like doing on repeat. You don't become mature by accident. You become mature by stopping the blame game. You become powerful when you realize your power lies in what you control, not what you wish you could change. Every day you have two options: handle your life or let it handle you. And if you choose the second, you better be okay with the consequences. Because life doesn't feel bad for people who don't show up. It just keeps moving. And if you stay down long enough, it will leave you behind. Not because it's cruel, but because it's indifferent. That's reality. You either evolve or you stay stuck explaining why you didn't. You've had enough breaks. Enough excuses. Enough timeouts from your responsibilities. And where has that gotten you? Are you proud of how you've been living? Are you impressed by your own patterns? If the answer is no, then the solution isn't more waiting, it's more ownership. You start where you are. You look your life in the face, no matter how messy it is, and you say, let's go. No filters. No fluff. Just you and the work. That's adulthood. Most people don't want to grow up mentally because growing up means letting go of the fantasy that someone else is coming to save them. Newsflash, they're not. Not your parents, not your friends, not your partner. You are the solution. You always were. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner things will start to shift. But make no mistake, shifting doesn't mean ease. It means grind. It means rebuilding habits. Rewiring your thoughts. Restructuring your day around discipline, not distraction. It means acting like someone with a future to protect, not just a past to justify. It means doing what's right, not what's easy. And if that sounds hard, that's because it is. But hard is the entry fee to freedom. That's the price of progress. Being an adult doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't let feelings run your life. You still cry, but you move. You still feel lost, but you take action. You still feel overwhelmed, but you simplify and move forward. Emotions are signals, not instructions. They don't run the show, you do. That's the new standard. You want a better life? Then build it. Brick by brick. Boring, gritty, relentless action. That's how adults create breakthroughs. Not with inspiration, with execution. Not with vision boards, with accountability. You want change? Stop waiting. Get up. Handle your life. Not like a victim. Not like a child. Like a builder. Like someone who's done hiding. Like someone who's finally ready to take responsibility for where they are and where they're going. It starts right here. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Not when you feel like it. Right now. Because every second you delay is another second the weaker version of you stays alive. And if that version stays, your life won't change. But if you replace it with someone who takes full responsibility, who handles pressure, who doesn't wait, you'll be shocked at how quickly things shift. That's the person you must become. The adult your future needs. The adult your past was praying for. The adult who doesn't flinch when life throws fire because they've already walked through the flames and came out stronger. This is the chapter of your life where you stop running. Where you stop lying. Where you stop hiding. You face it all. With discipline. With consistency. With resolve. That's how you kill the weak version of yourself. That's how you become unstoppable. Not later. Not someday. Now. Being stuck is not a condition, it's a pattern. A self-imposed state built on hesitation, overthinking, and the illusion that movement will only come when you feel ready. But readiness is a trap. It's an excuse disguised as logic. You are not stuck because life is hard. You are stuck because you've made stillness your habit. You've made overanalyzing your default response. You've made procrastination your identity. And the longer you stay in that loop, the deeper the cement dries around your feet. Eventually, you don't just feel stuck. You become stuck. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you've trained yourself to wait instead of act. The problem isn't your potential. It's your patterns. You've convinced yourself that action requires clarity, that you can't move until everything makes sense. But the truth is clarity doesn't precede action, action creates clarity. You don't gain direction by standing still. You gain it by taking steps even if they're small, even if they're imperfect. Forward motion generates feedback. It shows you what works. It reveals what doesn't. It builds momentum. And momentum is the antidote to being stuck. But you will never feel momentum if you don't force yourself to move, especially when you don't feel like it. You've spent enough time in the cycle, waking up with good intentions, delaying your first move, getting lost in distractions, then ending the day frustrated, disappointed, and exhausted from doing nothing. That's the fatigue nobody talks about, the exhaustion that comes from unused energy, from ambition that sits idle, from passion that never gets applied. You are not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing nothing with the potential that's boiling inside you. That tension between who you are and who you're supposed to be, that's where the exhaustion comes from. And the only way to release it is through motion. You must force yourself to act. Not out of motivation, but out of necessity, out of self-respect, out of the refusal to stay in the same mental and physical space while life continues without you. Waiting will not rescue you. Hoping will not build you. Wishing will not strengthen you. Only movement will. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you break free. You don't need another plan. You don't need a better system. You need to take the next step that's been staring at you for days. It might be small. It might be boring. It might feel like nothing in the moment. But that's where progress hides, in the unglamorous act of doing what needs to be done. While everyone else is waiting to feel inspired, you become the one who acts anyway. That's how you separate yourself. That's how you grow. People want to believe that feeling stuck is a sign of failure. It's not. It's a sign that you've stopped moving. That you've lost the habit of choosing progress over paralysis. But that habit can be rebuilt. One decision at a time. One action at a time. That's how you climb out of the hole. Not by sitting in it thinking, not by decorating it with better thoughts, but by climbing, even when it hurts. The feeling of being stuck is not a reason to quit. It's a signal to begin. Begin again. Begin messy. Begin unmotivated. Begin scared. Begin tired. Just begin. Because beginning leads to momentum, and momentum leads to clarity. And once clarity shows up, everything gets easier. But you don't get that reward until you've earned it through action. You've been lied to by your emotions. You've been convinced that if something feels hard, it must be wrong. That if you're not in the zone, you shouldn't move. That if you're unsure, you should wait. But every time you listen to that logic, you strengthen the weaker version of you. The one that thrives in stillness. The one that survives on hesitation. And that version must go. You won't feel like ing up most days. You won't wake up inspired every morning. You won't always feel like attacking the day with energy. But none of that matters. What matters is that you move anyway. That you stop asking your emotions for permission. That you start taking the first step without negotiating with your mood. Because if your actions are dictated by how you feel, then your results will always be unpredictable. But if your actions are dictated by your standards, your discipline, your identity, then your results will be inevitable. You are not your emotions. You are not your fatigue. You are not your distractions. You are the decisions you make in spite of them. The people who win in life don't always feel ready. They don't always have clarity. But they keep moving. They act their way into momentum. And the more they move, the more power they generate. That's how you take back control. By moving without asking. Start with something small. Clean your workspace. Open the book. Write the first sentence. Do 10 push-ups. Make one uncomfortable call. Say no to the next distraction. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to happen. Because every small action you take reclaims part of your power. Every small win silences the noise. Every moment of movement chips away at the narrative that you were stuck. And eventually that narrative breaks. You've spent enough time sitting in your head, overthinking, doubting, hoping, hesitating. You don't need more ideas. You don't need more research. You don't need another hour of brainstorming. You need movement. Raw, unfiltered, deliberate movement. You need to reconnect with action. Because action is the only thing that doesn't lie. Your thoughts lie. Your feelings lie. But your actions tell the truth. And if your actions are consistent, your life becomes consistent. If your actions are bold, your confidence becomes bold. If your actions are lazy, your mindset becomes lazy. You don't build your life through belief. You build it through behavior. And the behavior you repeat, especially when it's hard, becomes your new identity. So stop waiting to feel better. Stop waiting for a sign. Stop waiting for the right time. It's not coming. The perfect time is now, because now is the only time you control. Tomorrow is a lie. Next week is a trap. The only real currency you have is what you do in the next 5 minutes. Make it count. Use it. Take the step you've been postponing. Reclaim the hour you usually waste. Build momentum where you used to build regret. Your dreams are not stuck. You are. And the only way to unlock them is by forcing your body to move even when your mind resists. That resistance is not a wall. It's a signal. It's telling you, this is the moment that matters. This is the threshold between the old version and the new one. And if you cross it, you start changing. Not all at once, but moment by moment, action by action, you transform. So do it. Force the first step. Then take the second. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for excitement. Don't wait to feel like a machine. Just do the work. Quietly. Relentlessly. Repeatedly. That's how you kill the version of you that stays stuck. That's how you build the one that keeps moving. The one that doesn't need hype. The one that doesn't need rescue. The one that doesn't need a spark to start a fire, because it is the spark. Comfort is a liar. A thief wearing a smile. Feels warm in the moment, but it slowly, quietly kills your edge. It dulls your instincts. It softens your discipline. It whispers that you deserve a break when you haven't earned one. That it's okay to relax while your goals are still unfinished. Comfort doesn't just delay your progress, it replaces it. It doesn't just slow you down, it rewires your identity into someone who needs ease more than achievement. And that version of you, the one addicted to short-term relief, that version can never lead your life. That version must go. The truth is, the life you want is built in discomfort. It's built in effort, in sacrifice, in moments where you say no to what feels good so you can say yes to what matters more. If you've been stuck, if you've been disappointed with your progress, if you look at your life and know you could be more, then look no further than the moments you've chosen comfort. You've built your habits around it. You've built your expectations around it. You've trained your body and your mind to seek what's easy, and now you're wondering why the results don't feel right. They don't feel right because they're not aligned with the fire inside you. They're built on avoidance, not ambition. Comfort tells you you've done enough when you've barely begun. It tells you that rest is necessary when what you really need is movement. It tells you that scrolling through your phone for an hour is recovery when it's really escape. Every day you choose comfort, you vote for the weaker version of yourself. Every time you pick ease over excellence, you build an identity that shrinks when things get hard. And if you do that long enough, it becomes your default. You stop reaching. You stop pushing. You start making excuses for why your life looks the way it does. But deep down, you know the truth. You've traded your potential for convenience. And the trade is never worth it. If you want to reclaim your edge, you have to start saying no. No to the extra hour of sleep that ruins your momentum. No to the food that numbs you instead of fuels you. No to the lazy habit that feels good now but leaves you hollow later. No to the version of you that rationalizes everything with just this once. There is no just this once. There is only pattern or progress, habit or growth, weakness or strength. And if you don't pick one intentionally, your comfort will pick for you. The voice of comfort is seductive. It never yells, it whispers. It whispers in the tone of false self-love. It says, you deserve this, you've worked hard enough, don't push too much. But the truth is, real self-respect comes from discipline. Real pride comes from doing what's hard. Real growth comes from saying no when it hurts. And if you want to feel proud of your life, not just once in a while, but every day, you have to stop chasing what's pleasant and start chasing what's powerful. This is where the war gets real. Because comfort isn't just outside of you, it lives inside you. It's wired into your routines, into your cravings, into your triggers. That's why saying no isn't a single decision, it's a lifestyle. It's a commitment to fight back, not once, but every single day. Every time you say no to comfort, you strengthen the part of you that's built for war. The part of you that moves forward when others freeze. The part of you that becomes relentless, resilient, and focused. That version of you is built in resistance. And resistance is only created when you stop giving in. Look at your life with brutal honesty. Where are you negotiating with comfort? Where have you softened when you should have sharpened? Where have you lowered your standards to match your mood instead of raising your effort to match your goals? Those are the places where your discipline is bleeding. And they need to be patched now, not later. Later becomes never. Later is how comfort wins. And every time comfort wins, your confidence dies a little. Think about the moments you felt most alive, most proud, most powerful. They weren't born in ease. They were born in effort, in sweat, in sacrifice. That workout you finished when you wanted to quit. That task you completed when you were exhausted. That decision you made to say no when everything in you screamed yes. Those moments define you. They mold your identity. And they stack into momentum. Real momentum. The kind that builds over time and cannot be broken by a bad day or a weak mood. But you don't get that unless you say no. And mean it. Saying no to comfort is not about suffering. It's about aligning. Aligning your actions with your vision. Aligning your days with your standards. Aligning your words with your behavior. That alignment builds trust. Not just with others, but with yourself. You stop second-guessing your ability because now you've got proof. Proof that you can delay gratification. Proof that you can stay on course. Proof that your actions match your goals. That's how belief is built, not with positive affirmations, but with proof. Every time you give into comfort, you lose a layer of belief. You start to think maybe you're not capable. Maybe you don't have it in you. But that's a lie. You've just been listening to the wrong voice. And it's time to shut it down. Permanently. You don't need to feel like it. You need to follow through. You don't need to wait for motivation. You need to take ownership. You don't need to hope for better discipline. You need to build it through daily choices. And that begins by saying no. No to the excuse. No to the extra break. No to the distraction. No to the narrative that says you can do it later. Later has never saved you. Later has only delayed the life you were meant to live. You've played the game long enough. This time is different. This time you're not just saying no. You're living no. You're making it a muscle. You're making it part of your DNA. And the more you flex it, the more powerful you become. Eventually, the no becomes automatic. The resistance becomes instinct. The discipline becomes your baseline. That's when the old version of you finally dies. The one that chose comfort. The one that quit when things got hard. The one that settled for average. You don't need that version anymore. You've outgrown it. And the only way to bury it is to starve it. So when comfort calls, don't pick up. Don't negotiate. Don't entertain it. Stand firm. Say no. Again. And again. Until it becomes who you are. Not a push. Not a phase. A standard. A way of life. Because that's what greatness is built on, choosing discomfort when everyone else chooses ease. That's how you rise. That's how you dominate. That's how you become the version of yourself that refuses to settle. No more comfort. No more compromise. This time you mean it. Doing what's right when it feels good is easy. Anybody can do that. There's no resistance, no test of character, no internal war. But doing what's right when it feels bad, when everything in your body is screaming for relief, when your mind is begging for an easier path, when your emotions try to convince you that this time is different, that's where real power lives. That's where the gap is built between the average and the elite, between the talkers and the doers, between the people who change their lives and the ones who never stop talking about it. The most dangerous trap you can fall into is believing that right decisions should feel right. They don't. Often they feel like sacrifice. They feel like weight. They feel like silence, discomfort, and loneliness. But those feelings don't mean the decision is wrong. They mean you're finally doing something meaningful. Your feelings are not built to lead you to greatness. They're built to protect you from pain. And when you let them dictate your behavior, you choose short-term comfort over long-term growth. You've seen what that gets you: temporary relief followed by lasting regret. And you've carried that regret. You've looked at the mirror and known you could have done better. Not because you didn't know the right thing, but because doing it felt bad and you let that feeling win. That's the war most people lose, not the war of ability, but the war of conviction. The war between what they know is right and what they feel in the moment. You don't build a strong life by chasing comfort. You build it by honoring your standards even when they don't feel good. You build it by showing up when the world gives you every reason not to. You build it by choosing to tell the truth when it would be easier to lie. By choosing to stay calm when you want to explode. By choosing to finish what you started even when motivation has died and nobody's watching. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Not their intentions, but their follow-through. Weakness rationalizes. Strength commits. Weakness says, I'll try. Strength says, I will. Weakness moves only when it feels good. Strength moves regardless. You don't need to feel like doing the right thing, you need to do it anyway. Because every time you act on what's right instead of what feels good, you become someone you trust. You build internal credibility. You stop needing external validation because you know who you are. You know what you stand for. And you know that no matter how hard the moment is, you don't break. Think about all the moments in your life that shifted you. They weren't easy. They weren't convenient. They didn't come wrapped in comfort. They came with weight. They came with resistance. And they left you with something more valuable than pleasure, pride. Real pride. The kind that lasts. The kind that says, I did the right thing when it was hard. That's a pride no one can give you. You have to earn it. And the only way to earn it is through hard decisions consistently made. Most people never build that pride. They build excuses. They build stories. They build narratives that explain why it was okay to cut corners, why it was okay to take the shortcut, why it was okay to break their word just this once. But you know how that story ends. It ends in low self-respect. It ends in doubt. It ends in a quiet, constant fear that maybe you're not who you say you are. And that fear eats away at you. Because deep down, you want to be someone you admire. Someone you believe in. Someone who doesn't crack under pressure. Someone who can carry weight. But that version of you is not built in good times. It's built in the moments when doing what's right feels like the hardest thing in the world and you do it anyway. You will be tested. You will be tempted to quit early, to lie, to procrastinate, to let your emotions run the show. And no one will stop you. That's the scariest part. No one is going to intervene. Your life is your responsibility. Your standards are your responsibility. Your actions, your discipline, your word, that's all on you. And that's also the greatest gift. Because when you choose right over easy, no one can take that from you. That's your power. That's your edge. That's your proof that you are not like everyone else. It's easy to look disciplined when everything's aligned. When the weather's good, the schedule's clear, the body is rested. But what about when it's not? What about when you're exhausted, misunderstood, anxious, and alone? What about when nobody claps, nobody sees, nobody helps? That's when it counts. That's when the weak version of you shows up. That version that says, skip it today. You deserve a break. Just this once. And that's when you have to decide, do you live by feelings or do you live by values? Do you honor your word or do you abandon it when it becomes inconvenient? Every time you break your own standard, you teach your subconscious that your values are negotiable. And when that happens enough times, your identity collapses. You start feeling lost. You start second-guessing every decision. Not because you're broken, but because you've spent too long abandoning what you said you'd do. You've detached from your own integrity. And the longer that gap exists, the more it robs you of peace. Peace is not found in ease. It's found in alignment. In knowing that what you say and what you do match, even when it hurts. If you want that peace, you have to pay for it. And the currency is consistency. You want to be respected? Be someone who follows through. You want to feel proud? Be someone who shows up when it's tough. You want to trust yourself? Then stop abandoning your path every time your feelings shift. Life will always give you an easy way out. And it will always disguise it as logic, as compassion, as self-care. But real care is doing what builds your future, not what protects your comfort. Real self-love is choosing discipline when you want distraction. Real strength is built in the fire of decisions that don't feel good. This is where most people fold. This is where average is born. In the choice between what's right and what's easy. In the decision to say, I'll do it tomorrow instead of I'll do it now. But that's not you anymore. That can't be you anymore. You've lived that way long enough. You've felt what it's like to walk through life carrying a bag of half-finished goals and broken promises to yourself. You felt the weight of pretending everything's fine when deep down you know you've been running. That version of you, exhausted, distracted, inconsistent, it ends here. From now on, the rule is simple: do what's right even when it feels bad. Show up when it's inconvenient. Follow through when it's boring. Tell the truth when it's uncomfortable. Keep going when your emotions say stop. That's how you earn power. That's how you build a mindset that doesn't crumble under pressure. That's how you become the version of you that doesn't need external validation because your internal standard is already higher than anything the world could expect. It won't be perfect. You'll mess up. You'll slip. But when you do, don't spiral. Don't create a narrative. Don't justify the failure. Just return to what's right. Realign. Realign fast. Forgive yourself and recommit immediately. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's how you move forward without letting failure become identity. One bad day doesn't make you weak, but one pattern of choosing ease over what's right, that's how the weak version of you stays alive. Kill it. Kill it with action. Kill it with commitment. Kill it by being someone who chooses what's right even when it feels bad. Weak thoughts don't knock on the door, they sneak in. They crawl in through the smallest cracks in your focus, in your energy, in your self-image. They disguise themselves as logic, as self-care, as realism. And if you're not alert, if you don't catch them the second they show up, they start shaping everything: your actions, your beliefs, your identity. Weak thoughts aren't loud. They're subtle. They don't scream, "You're a failure." They whisper, "Maybe you're not ready." They don't shout, "Give up now." They say, "Let's try again later." But every time you let them stay, every time you listen, you give them roots. You let them take up space in your head. And they grow quietly, invisibly, until one day they run your entire life. If you want to change your life, you don't just need new goals. You need a new inner voice. One that shuts down weakness before it takes hold. One that calls out fear as soon as it appears. One that doesn't wait for confidence to speak but builds confidence through repetition. Because what's holding you back isn't a lack of talent. It's the pattern of thoughts you've normalized. Thoughts that have lived in your head for years without being challenged. And now they walk around like they own the place. That ends today. You've heard them long enough. I can't do this. I'll fail again. It's too late. Nobody cares. I'll never be consistent. These are not facts. These are rehearsed lies. Habits of the mind. Neural echoes of fear and past failure. And if you keep listening, if you let them go unchecked, they will harden into beliefs. And beliefs determine behavior. Behavior determines results. So if you've got weak results, it starts with the thoughts you've allowed to stay. You don't fight weak thoughts with positivity. You fight them with proof. With a standard. With a refusal to tolerate garbage thinking just because it's familiar. From now on, your mind is a high-security zone. Not every thought gets in. Only the ones that serve your purpose. If a thought disrespects your vision, it gets ejected. If it questions your value without reason, it gets shut down. You don't argue with weakness. You replace it. You don't entertain doubt, you silence it. You don't negotiate with fear, you outwork it. You train your mind like you train your body, through discipline. Through patterns. Through resistance. You don't get stronger by hearing new thoughts. You get stronger by repeating powerful ones until they dominate the mental landscape. You say, "I don't quit." You say, "I figure things out." You say, "I push through." You say, "I control my energy, my time, and my focus." And you say it every day, even when you don't believe it yet. Especially then. Because repetition builds belief. Not instantly. Not emotionally. But structurally. Biologically. Like training a muscle. You don't lift once and expect strength. You lift again. And again. And again. Until it becomes who you are. The same goes for your thoughts. You've spent years practicing weakness. It's going to take time to unlearn it. But it starts now with a zero-tolerance policy for mental trash. You're not going to let your brain be a dumping ground for every fear, every insecurity, every echo of past failure. You're going to curate your inner world like your future depends on it, because it does. And don't think you can skip this part. Everyone wants to change their life externally: better body, better money, better relationships. But if you don't change the voice in your head, none of it lasts. Because you'll sabotage it. You'll find a way to ruin the progress. You'll listen to the voice that says, "You don't deserve this. This won't last. You're not built for this." And you'll go back to where you started. Again and again. Until you break the cycle. That's why you need to treat your thoughts like data. Every time a thought enters, you scan it. Is this useful? Is this aligned with who I want to become? Does this empower me to act? If the answer is no, delete it. Don't argue. Don't analyze. Just delete. Weak thoughts are not sacred. They're not deep. They're not worth your energy. They're noise. And your mission now is silence. This isn't about ignoring reality. It's about leading it. You can acknowledge pain without becoming it. You can experience fear without submitting to it. You can see obstacles without shrinking because of them. That's leadership. That's mental maturity. That's the difference between those who collapse and those who rise. Your thoughts don't define you, your choices do. So stop saying, I'm not motivated. Say, I act anyway. Stop saying, I don't feel ready. Say, I show up regardless. Stop saying, what if I fail? Say, I'll handle it if I do. That's how you take your power back. Not with hype, but with logic. Not with emotion, but with execution. And remember this, weak thoughts will always return. This isn't a one-time purge. This is daily warfare. Every morning they'll knock. They'll show up when you're tired, stressed, distracted, vulnerable. That's when they sound the most convincing. And that's when you must be sharpest. That's when you must say, not today. And then get to work. Because action is the ultimate silencer. Weak thoughts can't survive when you're in motion. They feed off stillness. They thrive in hesitation. But once you move, once you take that first uncomfortable step, they fade. That's your strategy. Move before the voice gets loud. Act before the doubt gains momentum. Don't give it oxygen. Don't give it time. Every time you shut down a weak thought and act instead, you become stronger. Every time you stay on track when it would have been easier to quit, you rebuild your identity. Not the one shaped by fear, but the one forged by focus. The one that says, I don't listen to weakness anymore. That identity becomes your shield, your anchor, your default. And eventually, the weak version of you goes silent, not because it disappears, but because you stopped responding. You are not broken. You are not flawed. You are not stuck. You're just undisciplined with your inner world. And that can change. Starting today, you clean up your thoughts the way you clean up your space. Ruthlessly, systematically, with pride, with purpose. You don't tolerate negativity anymore. Not from others, and definitely not from yourself. You speak to yourself like someone you believe in, like someone who wins, like someone who gets up every day and leads from the inside out. That's how you kill the weak version of you, not with more motivation, but with better mental hygiene, with sharper filters, with daily mental reps. That's how you rebuild the strong voice, the one that says, I don't break, I don't fold, I don't quit, the one that moves mountains not because it's loud, but because it's consistent. So train it, build it, repeat it, own it. And when weak thoughts return tomorrow, and they will, you'll be ready. Because now you're not just aware. You're armed. And that changes everything. You have to stop waiting for something to wake you up. Motivation is not coming. Inspiration is not showing up at your door with a marching band and fireworks. No one is coming to rescue you from the rut you're in. You are the rescue. You are the response team. You are the wake-up call you've been begging for. The truth is, your life will not change the moment you feel ready. It will change the moment you decide to move, whether you feel like it or not. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who build momentum. Stuck people wait. Builders move. And the ones who move, especially when it feels pointless, heavy, or directionless, are the ones who change everything. The people who rebuild their lives, reinvent themselves, create consistency, and earn discipline aren't the ones who woke up feeling electric every morning. They're the ones who felt nothing and acted anyway. We have this cultural myth that success comes from energy, from a spark, from a wave of inner fire. But that's not real. Energy doesn't come first, movement does. Fire doesn't precede discipline. Discipline creates the fire. The people you admire, the ones who seem to be machines of productivity and resilience, they're not wired differently. They've just stopped asking themselves how they feel every morning. They've replaced the question, do I feel like it, with a better one, what needs to be done? Your feelings can no longer be the driver of your day. They are passengers. They can ride, but they don't get to steer. Because your goals are bigger than your moods. Your standards are higher than your emotions. And your future deserves more than your hesitation. The longer you wait for a spark, the colder your life becomes. You don't need a spark. You need a push, a shove, a rule. No matter what, I move. Let's get honest. How many times have you said, I'll start when I'm in the right mindset? How many workouts have you skipped? How many pages have you left unwritten? How many tasks have you delayed just because you weren't in the zone? How many days have you given away to a feeling? And what did those days give you in return? Regret, frustration, self-doubt. You think you're protecting yourself by waiting for readiness, but you're actually surrendering your power voluntarily. And the more you surrender it, the harder it is to reclaim. You have to train yourself to move without motivation, to rise without reason, to push without a pep talk. This is mental adulthood. This is the discipline most people never develop because they keep hoping their feelings will one day align with their vision. But your feelings are weather. Unreliable, unstable, reactive. If you only move when the skies are clear, you'll never reach the summit. You have to climb in the storm. The weak version of you wants to wait. It always has. It says, just rest a little longer. You're not in the mood. Today's not a good day. But that voice is not your friend. That voice is the weight pulling you back into the identity you've been trying to escape. And the only way to silence it is to prove it wrong. With action. With output. With movement. You don't need to feel amazing to get amazing results. You need to take consistent, unromantic, sometimes uninspired action. That's where success hides. Not in the glory of perfect days, but in the grind of imperfect ones. Not in bursts of motivation, but in the rhythm of repetition. Start before you're ready. Move before you believe. Act before you understand the full plan. You'll figure it out as you go. The path gets clearer as you walk it, not before. Waiting to feel motivated is like waiting for a train that never comes. You stand still, you waste time, and eventually you convince yourself the destination wasn't worth it. But it was. You just didn't move. Movement changes everything. It triggers clarity. It activates confidence. Creates momentum. And momentum is the compound interest of discipline. The more you do, the easier it gets to do more. You no longer need to hype yourself up because now your brain knows. This is what we do. We move. Do not underestimate the power of doing something small when you feel like doing nothing. Those moments are the bricks in the foundation of your new identity. The identity of someone who leads their life, not follows their mood. The identity of someone who gets things done without being reminded, pushed, or validated. You want to be someone who follows through? Then stop quitting on the days you feel off. You want to be someone who is respected? Then be reliable even when no one's watching. You want to be someone you're proud of? Then stop postponing your best self just because your current self feels tired. Discipline is built in resistance. That resistance you feel when you don't want to do the thing? That's the rep, that's the lift. That's the weight you're here to carry. Every time you carry it, you get stronger. And every time you drop it, you reinforce the identity of someone who backs down when it's inconvenient. From now on, motivation is a bonus, not a requirement. You don't need a feeling to act. You need a standard. You need a system. You need to know that no matter what, you will show up. Rain or shine. Energy or none. Mood or misery. Because your future does not care how you feel. It only cares whether you followed through. And this isn't about hustle culture. This isn't about burnout. This is about control. Ownership. Pride. You are tired because you're not moving. You are stuck because you're not starting. The cure is not waiting. The cure is acting. Right now. Not later. Not once you've had your coffee. Now, start the task. Make the call. Write the plan. Go for the run. Even if it sucks. Even if it's bad. Even if it's half-hearted. Do it. Because the habit of motion is more important than the quality of motion. You're building identity, not perfection. You want to know who you are? Look at what you do on the days you don't feel like doing anything. That's your real identity. That's who shows up when life gets hard. And that's the person you're either feeding or starving every single day. So build the right one. Feed the one who acts. The one who doesn't need a cheerleader. The one who shows up anyway. That's the version that wins. That's the version that breaks the cycle. That's the version who doesn't wait for motivation because they are the motivation. There's a part of you that flinches when it hears the word effort. It hides. It tightens up. It searches for escape routes, anything that sounds easier, faster, more comfortable. That part of you isn't evil. It's ancient. It's biological. It was built for survival, not greatness. But if you don't challenge it, if you let it run your life, it will drag you into mediocrity and keep you there forever. That part of you fears discomfort because it thinks struggle equals danger. But in the world you live in now, Effort isn't danger. It's currency. It's how you buy your future. We've been conditioned to believe that work should feel smooth, that success should be aligned with passion, that if something is hard, it must not be for you. That's the lie. That's the narrative that keeps people broken, and buried under regret. The truth is simple. The more you resist effort, the more you delay your evolution. Growth is earned through resistance, not avoided, not skipped, not bypassed, earned. So you need to confront that inner voice that avoids hard things. You need to name it, see it, stare it down. The one that says, this is too much, I'm overwhelmed, this is exhausting. That voice is not a sign you should quit. It's a signal you're entering the territory where transformation happens. The weak version of you wants to stay on the perimeter of growth. Close enough to watch, far enough to avoid pain. But the strongest version of you, the one this audiobook is trying to wake up, lives in the fire. Lives in the uncomfortable. Lives in the daily grind where results are forged, not fantasized. Look around. Who wins? It's not the smartest, not the most talented. It's the ones who keep showing up to hard things and doing them anyway. It's the people who stopped negotiating with effort, who don't need every task to be fun, every project to be creative, every day to feel like purpose. They've trained themselves to do the work whether it sings or not. That's the identity you need now. Not the one that seeks effortlessness. The one that thrives in effort. And here's the truth most people avoid. You are not overworked. You are underchallenged. You are not burnt out from doing too much. You're burnt out from doing too little of what stretches you. You're mentally exhausted because you're spiritually starving. Because you've been feeding the part of you that fears challenge instead of the one that craves it. And don't confuse this with punishment. Effort isn't suffering. It's self-respect in action. Every time you engage in deep, consistent, focused effort, you're telling yourself, I matter. My goals matter. My standards matter. I will not betray myself by giving anything less than my edge. But to hold that line, you must drop the story that says effort is a burden. It's not. It's a privilege. Effort is what makes you different in a world that's constantly lowering the bar. Everyone wants to be great until greatness demands more than they feel like giving. That's when people back down. That's when they run toward excuses that feel logical. I need balance. I'm just not built for this. I'll wait until things settle. But those aren't truths. Those are shields. And shields don't build strength, they just delay the hit. You want real balance? Do the hard work now so your future isn't chaos. You want peace? Push through the discipline so your mind isn't constantly filled with guilt. You want pride? Face the resistance until your self-image is bulletproof. Every time you choose effort, you upgrade your identity. Every time you do the extra rep, finish the last task, write the final sentence, your mind records, this is who we are now. And the more evidence you build, the less fear you carry. That's how you kill the part of you that fears effort. You give it proof that you are not afraid anymore. But let's be real. You're not just fighting distraction or laziness, you're fighting the belief that your life should be easy. That belief is poison. It's why you quit early. Why you delay things. Why you coast on good intentions. You think life owes you smoothness because you've been through enough. But life doesn't owe you a shortcut. It owes you nothing. And you owe it everything. Especially if you want to break cycles, build something that lasts, and lead others who are watching you silently, hoping you make it so they can believe they can too. You must become allergic to softness. Not emotionally, but mentally. You must look at resistance and see it as a signal, here's where I level up. Not, here's where I back off. You must replace the thought, this is hard, with this is making me stronger. You must replace, I'm tired, with I'm building stamina. You must replace, I don't want to, with that's exactly why I will. No one is born loving effort. It's trained, cultivated, built. It's a muscle. And right now yours is underused, atrophied. But it can be rebuilt. Through daily exposure to the things you want to avoid. Through leaning in instead of pulling away. Through sitting down when the distractions are loud and saying, I'm still doing it. And here's the craziest part, the more effort you give, the more energy you build. You don't lose energy by working, you lose it by holding back. That's why half-hearted days are more exhausting than focused ones. That's why incomplete work drains you more than finished work. That's why avoiding the gym feels worse than finishing a brutal session. You're not tired because you've done too much. You're tired because you've suppressed what you know you're capable of. So today, challenge yourself. Don't just dabble in discomfort. Dive into it. Take the harder path. Say yes to the thing you've been resisting. Don't negotiate. Don't delay. Don't protect the weaker version of you. That version has run your life long enough. Let effort expose it. Let effort break it. Let effort bury it. You were not made to glide through life on convenience. You were made to grow through pressure. And every time you face effort head-on, you step deeper into your potential. You silence the voice of weakness. You build the voice of strength. And you prove once again that you're not here to escape effort. You're here to master it. Everybody talks about goals. Few talk about standards. But here's the truth: your life is not controlled by your goals. It's controlled by your standards. Your goals are what you want. Your standards are what you accept. And most people live in the gap between what they say they want and what they're actually willing to tolerate. That's where the weaker version of you hides. In the excuses, the compromises, the it's okay for now moments. That's where your edge gets dulled, where your consistency dies, where the gap between your potential and your performance widens. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. You can dream big all day long, but if your daily standards are sloppy, lazy, reactive, and soft, your results will reflect that, not your vision board. And the most dangerous lie you can believe is that wanting something enough will eventually get you there. It won't. Wanting is cheap. Standards are expensive. Standards cost you your comfort, your excuses, your distractions, your indulgences. They demand sacrifice. And most people aren't willing to pay that price consistently. But that's where you flip the script. Because the strong version of you, the one we're building in this audiobook, is not someone who just dreams better. He executes better. She honors the line every single day. Not when it's convenient. Not when there's applause. But when no one's watching and every excuse feels justified. That's the difference. That's what makes a life unshakable, Stan. Darts that don't bend even when the world does. Your standards are how you treat your time. How you train your mind. How you eat, move, think, speak, and respond to adversity. Your standards are how you carry yourself when you're tired, how you act when you're ignored, how you keep showing up when the results are slow. They're not for show, they're for structure. They are the rules you live by when motivation runs dry. And if you haven't written them down, clarified them, committed to them, then you're playing life on hope mode. And hope is not a strategy. It's easy to chase goals when you're excited. It's easy to post about what you want to build. But what happens when no one cares? When the energy fades? When the challenge hits harder than expected? That's when your standards get tested. And if they're not solid, if they've been borrowed from the culture, the crowd, or convenience, they will crack. You must build standards so strong they can carry you through emotional storms. Standards that say, I don't skip the gym. I don't speak to myself like a victim. I don't waste time arguing with distractions. I don't tolerate average effort. These aren't preferences. They're laws. And when you start treating your standards like non-negotiable laws, your life changes fast. Not because the world changes, but because you stop letting the world dictate who you are. And here's the shift most people never make. They pursue high-level goals with low-level standards. That's why they fail. It's not because the goal was too big, it's because their baseline wasn't prepared to carry it. You can't chase elite outcomes with amateur habits. You can't expect results at a professional level while operating at a casual pace. Your environment, your routine, your decisions, they all must rise. And rise daily. Raise your standards for everything. How you start your morning, how you speak to your team, how you show up to commitments, how you treat your space, how you hold others accountable. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about creating a rhythm of excellence that becomes your new normal. One where discipline isn't punishment, it's pride. Where saying no isn't sacrifice, it's self-respect. The weaker version of you, he negotiates. She makes excuses. They bend when the pressure hits. But the version of you that dominates life, that version is forged in clarity. In the hard line that says, this is who I am and this is how I operate. Period. That's what leaders do. They don't rise because they're lucky or talented. They rise because they honor their standard when no one else does. You'll be tested. Life will give you 100 reasons to bend the rules. You'll be tired, emotional, tempted, overwhelmed. And in those moments, your goals will feel far away. But your standards, they'll be right there in your pocket, in your blood, in your bones. They'll be the reason you keep moving forward when everything else tells you to stop. And the more you practice living by high standards, the more effortless it becomes. What used to feel hard becomes your baseline. What used to require discipline becomes automatic. You stop needing hype because you've built alignment. You stop looking for permission because you've earned ownership. And that ownership is the beginning of real power. Raise your floor. Forget your ceiling. Everyone's obsessed with the top end, the dream, the peak. But greatness isn't built at the top. It's built at the bottom on the worst days, in the smallest choices when no one is watching. That's where your character lives. That's where your next level is born. In your standards. So stop obsessing over where you're going and start obsessing over how you're living. Are you showing up sharp? Are you staying focused when it's hard? Are you holding yourself to the line you promised? If not, don't feel guilty. Just raise the standard. And here's the final truth: you don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. So if you're not proud of your life, stop looking at your goals. Look at your standards. And raise them relentlessly.